What's that? Two tier list? The Dokkan Battle 10th anniversary final tier list is here. How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan Battle video. In today's video, we are closing out our tiers for the 10th anniversary. Now that we have pretty much every LR that we're going to see during this time, including any possible EZAs to come, right? Whatever happens next will be happening in the next celebration. We'll tackle that when that happens. So we're going to go ahead and jump back into our tiers. As always, when we rank our units, we look at three major things: consistency, versatility, and power. Consistency is how well the unit performs on a consistent basis, right? Is it functioning? Is it doing what it's intended to do? For versatility, right? How many different places can we use this unit? Specifically, different teams, right? As you know, certain characters may be designed for specific types of stages. I don't necessarily consider that in versatility, although it definitely is a factor. Now, finally, with raw power, this can come in the form of offense or defense. Think someone like LR Beast Gohan. His raw power lies on his defense versus someone like LR Tech Vegito, where his power lies in his counters and offense. So that's kind of what I mean by that. Now, in a recent community post that we had done, we had actually talked about the necessity for a second type of tier list, because as it moves forward, I have a feeling we're going to be seeing, and we already see this throughout the anniversary, is that we have a bunch of LRs that don't necessarily fit the mold of what we would think with our traditional top 10, as we have two sets of contents. We have long content, which a lot of the top 10s do perform very well in, and then we have the short content in Battle Hardened Formidable Foes, which is a whole different style of fight, and I think a lot of units shine there that don't necessarily shine in the red zone. So I wanted to make sure I honor both of these. So we're going to start with our red zone tier list, and then we will jump on over to the Battle Hardened Formidable Foes. Think of it: long unit tier list, short unit tier list. So this is where our tier list was as we left off at the release of Great Ape Vegeta and Kaioken Goku. So we still have a couple units we need to play, specifically the Part 2 units, and the Kaioken's supposed to be here, and the LR EZAs for the 7-year LR. So let's go ahead and let's start by placing probably the worst of these characters. And that is, I hate to do this, but that is probably the Frieza and the Goku, right? So the Frieza and Goku, they get an honorable mention. They are incredibly good units, but really have a tough time placing them anywhere in the top 10. At best, I would put them here with UI Goku, but I find UI Goku is still slightly more useful, if only for his domain. But although UI has been frauding out for me a lot. In terms of consistency, right? Once you transform him into Goku, right, you make that exchange, he's actually incredibly good in terms of consistency. Where we begin to see the problems is when you have to put him into Frieza, right, during the first turns and during the first turn or so before you can exchange. That's where things can be a problem, right? Unless you are below that 77%, things can be a bit dicey in some of these harder fights for him, and that's where the problem lies. The second half of that is, right, power and versatility. Versatility, Battle of Fate, not the greatest team, but I mean, he can slide into some okay teams. He doesn't really work well on them though, especially with his leader skill being, or not his leader skill, his passive, right, especially in the Frieza form, needing other allies to be all of the same type, all of the same class, as well as needing Goku needing to get rainbow orbs in order to get his damage reduction. On top of that, right, power, right, this is sort of the other checkbox where he doesn't really make the nail for me, and that is that, you know, once you change into Goku, the goal is to stack. but he only stacks on his 12 key and he only gets 1 guaranteed additional. So that's a problem for a unit that needs to stack. And even then, right, you could spend 11 turns stacking, switch back into Frieza and use the active skill, and the payoff just really isn't that big. So I kind of think he falls in power, but he is fun to use. They are good. I just don't think that they're anywhere better than anyone here in the top 10. So for now, I would just keep him under here. Next, we have Gohan. Gohan is actually incredibly good, but for Red Zone, he's not the greatest. In fact, he excels very well in short content. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a minute. But for this, for Gohan, I would probably place him right here in the middle of the pack, right? Not too crazy, right? Because he's basically got 4 good turns out of him, right, where he's launching a bunch of additionals. After that, he's only doing 1 single super, but that 1 single super is more than enough for him to, 1, deal a crap ton of damage, and 2, allow him to, tank whatever's in front of him. So honestly, he's still pretty good even regard that. So for Red Zone, he's sort of a middle of the road option. He's great for handling the early phases of fights, and then in the final phase, he kind of is just there to do what he needs to do. But of course, unless the units have similar functions, I'm trying not to double up here. So this actually shifts our list down with Gohan at 5, grade 8 Vegeta in here. And honestly, I would say that these two are pretty interchangeable. Gohan is consistent in what he does, the additional supers. He is consistent in tanking pretty much every major fight in the game, even if it's not necessarily slot 1, right? At a certain point, he does move to slot 2, like most of these units. In terms of power, he's got raw power in spades, and of course, him being a Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, and being a Goku's Family Kamehameha character, he is one of the more versatile characters. He can go into a lot of different events with a lot of different teams, so that's kind of why I put him there. Now, having tested a bunch, I think I can confidently say that there is no difference between Goku and Vegeta. I know that sounds crazy, right? Because people look at Goku and be like, he is significantly better. The Vegito form is so much better, but I think people really underestimate how useful the tech that Vegeta and Gogeta have, right? Bringing these units up to possibly over 120, over 110% support on an active turn if you get the double Gogeta support, having the ability to use Veku to clear out a phase if you need to, right? And plus, the attack stacking and defense stacking, right? While Vegito is mostly getting his offense through his counters, right? Where Gogeta is just kind of doing similar numbers, just off 4 super attacks. So, honestly, they're one and the same. You could argue either one or 2. Now, before we move on to placing the LR Super Saiyan 4s and Super Saiyan Gods, I wanted to make some adjustments to this list. Having done some more thorough testing, I do think that I want to shift a couple units down. I want to move these guys down, and I want to move these guys back up. Actually, Broly is probably going to move down a little bit. He struggles a bit in some of these longer fights. So Ant Broly, I'm going to move him down a little bit here to number 4 because he's still very good. But I think these two here kind of share the spot at number 3. This dude having a giant form is really, really helpful, and that's why I can't really put him lower than 2. And plus, he's just really, really good. He does struggle a bit in slot 1, but that's okay, because now we have the perfect slot 1 partner for him. Gogeta has actually moved down here more towards the trio for me. I both think they're still useful, still good, but given that these two exist now, you're not really able to stack these guys up as much as we used to, which the result is seeing lower overall numbers for them. And plus, in these red zones with these critical hits, this can be a bit scary for them. Gohan is still doing what he does, which is why I can't really move him forward. His standby is still effective at, in these final phases, especially if you time it right, to build up as much orb changing as you can. So I still think he actually, you know what? No, more having used him a couple of times in the Jiren fight. See, this is where the traditional tier lists are getting tougher. So honestly, for Gohan, I mean, he's still checking all the boxes. It's just his overall damage now is not there. So I probably want to move. I don't know that I would move him all the way down, but I would move him probably. Let's see. Yeah, honestly, I would say I think I'm comfortable with this. So Gotenks moving up here. All right, and then actually, yeah, here we go. There we go. All right, this is where I'm comfortable. So this is kind of what my tier list looks like for the red zones, and then mainly because like I have used these guys multiple times in the new red zones, and I'm seeing very good consistent performance. But of course, right, they just lack the power that they need. So these two purple tiers are probably interchangeable. You could move Frieza and Goku above these guys if you wanted to. I probably might consider it, but I think they're good here for now. These guys still very good for what they're doing, although things are getting a little bit more dicey for both of them having to take these hits. Gotenks is incredibly good, Vegeta good, right? Like I'm pretty confident with this list. And then of course these all honorable mentions, right? I always do my tier list like this because I want you to recognize that just because a unit isn't here in the top 10, it doesn't mean that they are necessarily terrible, right? It's just that these were the ones that I could kind of rank the best, I feel like. So now that brings us to where the LR Super Saiyan 4s and Super Saiyan Gods land, right? That's the big question. Where are they? So with that in mind, all right, let's start with the Gods. The Gods are probably right here at number 3, which actually now shifts our list down. Crazy to think how much it just changed here in just this simple shift, right? So Gotenks moving down, and then these guys here, right? The LR Gods are incredibly powerful, incredibly useful. They do oh so very, very much. Actually, sorry, 2, right? That's where I want them. All right, they're at 2, and I think that is a deserving spot for them. The stacking, they're basically invincible turn 1. Their only issue is on their second appearance, right? And that's really only an issue in battle-hardened or formidable foes. Every other fight, it's a complete non-issue, and that's kind of what we're looking at. In raw power, they've got it in spades. They build it up every turn. They dish it back out by the time they hit turn 4. And if you want to play fun, right, red zones is no better playground for them, where you can get to turn 11 and just throw out over 100 million attack stat. Defense they've got in spades. They are incredibly versatile, them being movie heroes type unit. It works. They work. All right, so that brings us to the final LR EZA of the celebration. That is the LR Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta. Now, unfortunately, once again, this further shifts our list down because I do think they are better than the Gods, right? In terms of raw power, they are going to be dishing out more damage. They have a guaranteed counter, which allows them to dish out more damage, especially if that counter is after super attacking. Damage reduction, which, I mean, for like their first appearance, they have like 100% damage reduction, nearly, which means they're practically invincible in all fights when they come out, as Gogeta. And then finally, their final, the counter and their active skill. And this goes for the Gods too, although the Gods are more dodge oriented. But Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta having a counter that basically nullifies the super, and the scouter now that tells you where that super is, so you can just throw him in front of it. It's insane, right? And that's the best part, right? The gods are still going to have to dodge that super if you put them there on their transformation turn. The 4s don't have that problem. You have your scouter, you put them in front of that super, they are either going to tank it or they're going to counter, right? There's no in between. That's why I do feel like they are better. But I do feel like the 10th anniversary main handliners do deserve their place at number 1. But look at just how much that list has shifted since the last time, right? And this I feel I'm a lot more comfortable with because now we don't have so many double ups other than this. Honestly, if you wanted to move Vegeta off and put on Namek Goku or Frieza up here in number 10, I wouldn't argue with you. And even moving Gotenks up, right? Anywhere between these 3, I think is probably a safe place for this, for these guys. I would even argue that moving him up here next to Broly and moving Gotenks up and pushing these guys up and putting Namek Goku and Frieza is probably not bad either, because they work. Namek Goku more so, especially for the final stages of the red zones, but because they both function relatively similar, I would put them both here. I wouldn't argue with this, but I am kind of more comfortable with this setup here, even moving off Vegeta himself. So that is it for the red zone. So now let's tackle the other one. This one's actually going to be a little more quicker because it's the first time ever making the list. I still look at the same I'm still going to be looking at the same categories here: power, consistency, and versatility, but specifically in regards to short events. So in terms of number 1 units, I actually think the list shifts ever slightly. So for battle hard and formidable foes, for these short contents, I actually think Gogeta and Beast are actually above Vegito on this one for me. And that is because Gogeta has the Veku active skill, right? So all of the things that we would normally rank these guys, power, consistency, versatility, are all still present, right? Nothing has changed about that for them. It's just specifically what does that mean in terms of short content. So consistency in short content for Vegeta, right? Ergo Gogeta means that turn 1, they are stacking attack. Turn 2, if it's turn 2 and they appear turn 1, you're stacking more attack. If it's second appearance and you started turn 2, you are swapping into Goku and you are using Veku. And then, turn 5 if you make it that far, if he started turn 1, right? And Veku is what really solidifies it for me in the short content. It's basically a free turn. A double Gogeta means you've got 2 Ghost Ushers. That is a huge bonus to teams. Number 2, Beast Gohan, right? Beast Gohan is incredibly useful in battle hard and formidable foes because he isn't, as long as he's getting his hits in first, some turn 1 supers can rock him a bit, but never enough to kill you outright, which means on his next appearance, you now have his active skill, which, you're now going to survive and, get a lot more help. Vegito still gets turn 1. It still gets top 3 for me here in terms of short content, battle hard and formidable foes, because again, same as the Vegeta, Goku's turn 1's actually a lot more safer than Vegeta's, but his turn 2 is where things get iffy. Second appearance, you have the chance to get the Potara break if he starts turn 2. Otherwise, his third turn, if he's starting turn 1, can be a bit dicey, but it's that turn 4 that overall turns the tide of battle, right? Once you hit that turn 4 and you can transform him into Vegito, like the Gogeta, you have a near instant win, although certain bosses can rock him a bit, especially ones that build attack on getting hit. That can be a problem for, so think like Hirugarn or Murzamas, right? As well as those that have the critical hits, right? That can also be a problem for him. All right, moving the rest of the list down, right? I do think Gohan is straight out, and I know people are like, well, he's got a standby, but you still have to deal with turn 1, and that's where the bigger issue lies for me for them. I'm moving Gogeta straight out as well, and then moving Broly up here with Beast. In Broly, we'll come back to him. We'll put him in honorable mentions for now, and then we'll put this here, and then we've got, so I'm comfortable with this. So Tech Vegeta gets his place for, again, power in terms of defense. He is one of the greatest defensive units in battle-hardened formidable foes. Like Beast, he can, and Tech Broly, he can just kind of sit slot 1 and do what he needs to do and carry you through the fight. Plus, having a team mechanic giant form is very, very helpful. This also applies to Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Having the giant form on turn 3, very useful for changing the tide of battle. All right, I do think Vegeta is better, but both of them having that mechanic, like, so you'll notice a consistent thing here with all of the units within the top 5 is that they have some type of mechanic that basically gives you a type of team protection. Now for my number 6. Now I really wanted to put this guy higher, and actually, you know what, I might. You know, this guy is right here in the middle. I'm going to put him number 5. You know what, I'm comfortable with that. And that is because even though Goku has a team protector mechanic, in terms of raw power, Gohan is... And, you know, Gohan has way more power than Goku, right? In battle-hardened formidable foes, he is at his peak, right? Because, especially if you build him with a crit, he's launching 6 supers in a turn. He is melting HP bars. Defense, he's not getting touched, right? Especially if he's second slot post-super. And then, to add on to that, right, his active skill turn is a guaranteed kill in battle-hardened formidable foes. So he is good. Add on to that versatility. He fits onto... It's the same as Red Zone, right? He is one of the more versatile units, and then being able to be in both Red Zone and here also cuts it for him, right? So you'll notice that about the top 5, right? But all of these guys work in both. Beast, not as much, and like honestly, I wanted to move Beast more down on this list, but he's still very useful for controlling the fight, all right? Even in the Int Jiren phase, which you're normally hitting turn 8, you could still pop his active skill and be okay in that phase, right? So, you know, I still feel like he's within the top 5. So, moving the list down some more, right? I'm keeping Super Saiyan 3 Goku where he's at, and then moving in, where is it? Vegeta gets moved off because he almost, and it's not that he's bad, he is a good filler option for some of the teams, but you know, he loses a lot of his value in his revive and his more in his power, just because you don't really get to feel it, and plus him having to get hit first can be an issue. He's mostly gonna want to be a floater in this fight. Although he does give you some free turn 1s, some of the harder fights, it's iffy putting him slot 1 turn 1 in some of them. So I'm moving him off, and same with the trio. Again, I don't feel that standbys are as useful in this fight, which allows UI Goku to rest easily at number 7 here. Just because free dodge turn 1, which is a lot better than needing to take a hit for Super Saiyan Blue. Where things get dicey for him is turn 3, but at that point, turn 3, you will have, or second appearance, I should say, you're probably going to have it taken enough damage to proc his revive, so it's irrelevant anyways. So that's why I kind of have him at number 7. Now, people are going to be surprised at this, but we're moving Tech UI off, and one unit that I think is very useful for these fights. We're just going to go ahead and get these guys right out because they're not there. One unit I do think is very useful out of the recent LRs is probably Jiren. His turn 1, he's near invincible, he's not dying, plus he gives you an action cancel, and then his turn 2, he goes into standby. He is like his standby, I feel like, is the only one that I think fits into this fight. The rest of the standbys, right? I mean, the trio can work, but it's a bit iffy. Gohan, you still have to deal with his turn 1, and then his standby is pretty good, but I feel like Jiren's is a lot better in this regard. So, like, all of these guys, right, they still get the honorable mention because they are useful. Even Namek Goku can be useful in that fight, but I don't think that he is the best. And then this moves Frieza, and so we'll put Jiren at number 9 for the same reason. And then Frieza and Goku, same thing, right? You deal with the turn 1, which for the most part can get through, but then their turn 2 has a lot more value in just simply being a tank. Right, having the ability to be a tank is actually incredibly useful in Battle Hardened Formidable Foes, because there's plenty of good slot 2 units, slot 2 units above them, right? So having just an ability to sit there as a tank while you aren't doing much else in terms of versatility, being consistent in being that tank, I think is very, very useful. So the Goku side of this is what puts them there, right? You survive the turn 1, put the Goku side in slot 1, and then you're good. So that's kind of why I moved them there, at least above some of these others. Now, where do the LR Year 7s fit into this, right? That is the question, right? So they actually aren't as high on this for me. I would probably put them both here at number 6 and shift the whole list down. Gotenks still makes it because he can kind of work in either, and you know what, this actually kind of ends up bumping him off, but this is what my team looks like, or my list would look like for Battle Hardened Formidable Foes, right? You'll see a lot of similarities between the red zones, right, but slight changes, right? You see up movement of characters like Vegeta and Gohan, and you see sort of Gogeta standing above them. And I know it's crazy, right? People are thinking, how could you put Vegito here? But I did explain earlier why I think having these two is a little more useful than having Goku. Even though his turn 1 can be incredibly powerful, he's not affecting the fight, right? Because you're usually finishing the fights turn 4 or turn 5. That's the thing about all of this. You're usually ending these turn 4 or turn 5. So I mean, the reality is that someone like what he can do on turn 4, or what these guys are doing turns 1 through 3, is probably a lot more useful. The LR gods, in terms of power, consistency, and versatility, they kind of fit in line with Gohan, although I do think Gohan does their job in Battle Hardened Formidable Foes a little bit better, right? Because these guys can be a fish on their second appearance in that fight. The 4 is not as bad, but definitely the gods. But I mean, ideally what you do is turn 1 you build them, turn 2 slot 2 them, and then transform on their next appearance, assuming you make it, right? So, but the rest of them, I am pretty comfortable with this list. So it took us a while to get there, but these are my 2 lists on the Red Zone tier list and the Battle Hardened Formidable Foes. I think this is the way we approach things moving forward, because I have a feeling the more units we get throughout this year, we're going to be getting ones that fit the mold for one or the other. I don't think there is going to be a perfect slot for all of them. So guys, that is it for the video. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in the comments down below, let us know, what do you think of our 2 tier list? Am I crazy here for thinking this might be the approach we need? Let us know in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.